Looks like we're reasonably well situated here. My name's Moshe, coming to you from Israel and the Galilee, where I've lived for a long time. So I'm giving you the perspective on the Middle East that you're probably not going to get from people that haven't lived here a long time. It's not what you think, and we're going to open it up for you today. Not just give you theories. I'm going to actually give you factual information that you know is out there, and you can verify it in Google easily. And you will see what the true motive of America is and in the Middle East, and this is going to shock you. As of yesterday, there were 43 warships in the Middle East region. I think about half were American. There's a new aircraft carrier group that's headed over here to the Middle East, the Mediterranean, I believe, from Singapore. It's a distance of 6,000 some odd miles. Best possible case would be 9 days, probably something like 12. It could. Now, if it's going to go to the Persian Gulf or the Red Sea, probably 14 days. So it's not going to be that fast. There's 2 aircraft carrier groups from America here now, which is the Dwight D. Eisenhower, which is positioned down by Yemen. By the way, Yemen in the Bible is often, they teach Yemen is Temen. It's not. Sheba is Yemen. Sheba. Remember the Queen of Sheba came to see Solomon? And remember Yeshua said she's going to stand up at the judgment and she's going to be in good shape. And it also says that Solomon gave her all she asked for, which is assumptive that he had children with her. Is that stated in the Bible? No. Is it a somewhat off-the-walls assumption? Not really. If he did, the Shebaites, the Yemenites, which is the location of Yemen today, would be from the tribe of Judah, which is not a lost tribe. Why would I say that? Because Yeshua came from Judah in the line of David. David was in Judah. Who was David's son? Solomon. He's in Judah. The lineage goes through the father, not the mother. The rabbis tell you the mother. It's ridiculous. It goes through the father. They determine Judaism through the mother, which is completely absurd, but that's them. Okay, so the Yemen is Sheba. You can go look at old Bible maps in Google and you'll see it right there, exactly where Yemen is. I don't know if the precise border to the mile is the same, but you'll see it's spot on, you know. Okay, there's another 50 warships headed into the Red Sea area. 6 major shipping companies, Maersk and the Hague one and all that, 6, Evergreen and all that, have stopped sending maritime naval vessels into the Red Sea temporarily. They're parking them places. They don't want to have to go around Africa, which is approximately, it's under 2 weeks usually. It could hit 2 weeks. It's around there. And that adds inflationary cost to the goods being transported because the ship is tied up an extra 2 weeks, let's say, carrying the same cargo. So the ship can't be doing other things. So that now they got to raise the cargo prices because the ship's tied up for 2 weeks. It's going to burn more fuel, a lot more. And it's going to have to make payroll longer. And this is not just affecting Israel. Forget that. It's affecting the countries on the Mediterranean and Europe, many countries, and Egypt is croaking because when you go up the Red Sea to get to the Mediterranean, you go through the Suez Canal, and Egypt has their hand out, pay me, for tolls and tariffs, and they're losing billions. It will be billions. So what will Egypt do? We'll talk about all this stuff, okay? So that is really just to get you interested. Now, I'm going to do the intel on what really is going on in the Middle East, documented with news that you can verify, and you've probably heard already in a lot of cases, not all, but you can verify it. And then we're going to talk about the 1260 days, the 42 months, and the time and times and half a time. I'm going to open that up to you. Okay? And I'm going to show you, I'll give you the spoiler. I'm going to show you it's the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it with Bible proof as a good Bible lawyer. I'm going to show you the scriptures for that. Okay? So right now I want to go jump into the chat real quick and see if I got everything working right, which usually I do, but I've got sound and picture, and I'm going to I'll be quick. Almost done. Okay, I am finished. Since we're a Bible-believing site, I want to do some praises to the Lord and the Messiah. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. So the question that you guys should be asking yourself is, what the heck is Biden doing? What is he up to? Now, let's go back to, let's say, September this year. Up until that time, Biden didn't want to see Netanyahu. He wasn't inviting Netanyahu to come to the White House. He did see the president of Israel, Herzog, who is like a Secretary of State. It's not like an American president. And the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, is the top, he's the top dog in the government. And he also saw the Defense Minister, Gallant, but he wouldn't see Netanyahu. All of a sudden in September, he's friends with Netanyahu, and Netanyahu can come over. Got a little cup of soup here to warm up. It was chilly this morning. I was outside working, and it was in the 50s, the mid 50s, and that's really cold for us because, I'm used to sitting outside at 85 degrees and I'm comfortable. 55 is 30 degrees cooler. That's cold for us. It'll hit about 68 today. It may get to 70, which is good. Okay, so Netanyahu goes over there on the 20th of September. Netanyahu has 3 active open criminal cases in trial process in Israel now for corruption. Yes, he does. One count is max 10 years in jail. The other 2 are 3 years each, 16 years. He's well hated by a lot of people in Israel, believe me. I said before this war started that Netanyahu would put us in a war because he tried to do judicial reform and strip the courts of their power so he wouldn't get prosecuted. Every Saturday after Shabbat was over, people were protesting in huge amounts all around Israel against Netanyahu, huge amounts of people, because he was trying to make himself a dictator. What he was trying to do was pass something called the French law, which is a law France has that the prime minister can't be prosecuted civilly. He can't be called into court. No depositions, no statements, no subpoenas, nothing. No charges, civil or criminal, for anything he did during the prime ministership or when he's prime minister. Netanyahu's trying to get that law for Israel. Now, he signed some type of agreement with them before he was prime minister that when he was running for office this time, if he got elected prime minister, he would not interfere with the judicial process. Yet he did, big time. The Supreme Court in Israel doesn't have a written law, but they have a policy. They call it in English the reasonableness doctrine. And it doesn't apply to lawmaking, it applies to government action. So if the government were to do something stupid, right, just to be a silly example, require everybody to wear a red hat or something like that, the Supreme Court could step in and say that's not a reasonable action on the part of the government, and strike it down. They haven't done this many times, but they have done it. So Netanyahu's fear was, when he started meddling with the judicial system, see, there's 3 branches of a democracy. The executive branch, which is Netanyahu, the prime minister, the legislative branch, which is our Congress called the Knesset. It's a single house Congress, 120 seats. And this is all highly relevant, by the way. And the judicial branch, which we refer to as the High Court, but we often call it the Supreme Court, people understand it better. So because he signed an agreement not to meddle with judicial, and he did meddle with judicial, he was afraid the Supreme Court was going to remove him because of a conflict of interest. So he passed a law called he got the Knesset, which he controls, to pass a law striking down the reasonableness policy of the Supreme Court. And it passed. lots of people filed lawsuits with the Supreme Court to get that law struck down. Those cases are still active. But the Supreme Court slowed down much of its work due to the war, which is 73 days old, I think. Netanyahu also passed a law, fearing the Supreme Court striking him out of office, that you can't remove a prime minister from office unless it's for health-related reasons, and then you have to have 75% vote of the Knesset to remove him, only for health reasons, like he got shot in the head, he had a stroke, he can't talk, or things like that, right? Maybe you could say he can't find his way off the stage, like another leader we know. Okay. So he was removing he was neutering or reducing in power the judicial branch of the democracy. He is the executive branch, and his party, the Likud party, controls the legislative branch, and that was basically going to make him a dictator. So they started making pictures of him with a Roman crown, with the leaves, and they were calling him Caesar Bebius. His nickname is Bibi. Big signs, posters at demonstrations and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that hate this guy. So, I was saying that he'll do anything to stop himself from getting a long term in jail. He's, 72, 73 years old. If convicted, it's perhaps unlikely he would get more than 3 or 4 years, but he could get 8 or 10, and he doesn't want to die in jail. So I said, what he'll do is he'll throw Israel into a war. Because the Israeli people have been brainwashed for some reason that if you have a bad prime minister, you don't do a vote of no confidence and remove him from office during a war, because it shows the enemy division, and they don't want to do that. It's illogical. If the guy is bad, it's a mistake to keep him in office during a war, but Israeli people are very hard to convince of things, and they do things their way, and you're not going to talk them out of it. There are factors in the Knesset that are very interested in getting him out, but there's no strong movement right now. Okay? I also said that Netanyahu, if he could, would destroy Israel as a nation before he went to jail. Because if the country gets destroyed, there's no courts, there's no jails, there's no nothing. He walks away. A lot of the evidence has been rather damaging so far. Before the war, the court started asking the different parties to submit their arguments as to why the reasonableness clause should be struck down or not. They were getting close to making a ruling, and the ruling was going to be to knock the law down and then remove Netanyahu for conflict of interest. But they would have had to first get the reasonableness law down, and then they were probably going to go after that law that you can't remove a prime minister unless it's for health reasons with 75% of the Knesset. So if he decided to rape people or execute people on his own, you couldn't remove him from office. How silly that is. The reasonableness clause could probably have covered taking that law out too. Once they took that law out, they would have had him removed from office for breaking his written agreement not to change the judicial system because of his criminal cases and conflict of interest, which he did. So Netanyahu was extremely desperate. Okay. Now, he miraculously goes to America on September 20th, visits Biden all of a sudden. Biden loves him, right? Comes back, and a little more than 2 weeks later, October 7th, Israel gets hit with an unprepared sneak attack. Let me explain to you why people in Israel want a serious investigation about this, probably by the Supreme Court. A tremendous amount of Israelis go in the military and stay in the reserves until they're 40 years old. A tremendous amount of them have been stationed near Gaza, talking millions. And they know the security practices at the Gaza border. Above and beyond the fence, that's not so easy to penetrate. They have a vast network of cameras. Infrared for night and day cameras. And they're monitored by soldiers near the border. We also have sensors that detect movement and pressure, people walking, things like that on the border. And they're monitored. Just in case, we also have lookout towers, which are, 30 feet high, maybe 40, maybe 25, something like that. They're usually made out of wood, and you go up a ladder, or it could have a staircase, and you have a wall that comes up maybe waist high. You have a roof with an overhang, and you have binoculars, cameras, communications equipment, and you stay up there and you do a shift and you watch the border. A lot of those. In addition to that, we have Bedouin people that live in Israel. It's sort of a weird subsect of Mohammedanism in a way, of Islam. And they are trackers. Now, when I say trackers, what you need to understand, like the Apaches, the Navajos, the Cherokees, they can track people. Footprints and signs, broken twigs, branches, things like that. And they're not just a little good at it, they're super excellent at it. Okay? Now, America has people like this that are trained that way too in the special forces. It's not at all uncommon. So if there is an intrusion and the cameras pick it up and the sensors pick it up and the outposts pick it up, well, then they send the Bedouins, and the Bedouins start tracking them immediately, and we get them run down, and we either arrest them or we have a gunfight with them. Okay? They come in to kill. That's what they come for. They're terrorists. Now, all these systems broke down on October 7th. People in the outposts were overrun by Hamas. A few thousand came in from Gaza, along with civilians that wanted to loot, pillage, plunder, steal, rape, murder. Nothing happened. Normally, people in the outposts got killed and taken hostage. Quite a bit were female soldiers. And help didn't come. As people in the IDF would know, the response time should be more like 7-8 minutes. Help would come in the form of armored personnel carriers, armored Humvees, or unarmored Humvees with 50 cals or 30 cals mounted on them. Helicopters might come, tanks might come, all sorts of stuff. Nobody came for 7 or 8 hours. People in the kibbutzes near the border got overrun. They went in their houses. They locked the doors. Hamas kicked the doors in. A lot of the doors in Israel are metal in a metal frame. You can't kick them in. They got blocking bolts on all 4 sides. So they smashed the windows out and they went in. They murdered people, children in front of the parents, parents in front of the children, took infants and children hostages, raped the women. We found their bodies and their pelvises were broke from the rape. They raped them to death and then continued necrophilia. And it was instances where some Hamas terrorists came into a house and a woman cooked a meal for them. Okay? They came in on paragliders, which is a big parachute that has a motor on it that they sit on and they drive it in. Now, our radar picks up drones that are maybe this big. A paraglider, the parachute must be 20 feet, 25, 30 feet across, and maybe 4 feet wide. And a guy sitting there with an engine on a chair, and and our radar didn't pick that up. We didn't get alerts. No action was taken. When the people, everybody in Israel, every house is supposed to have a bomb shelter. It's by law. They're made of rather thick, reinforced concrete. They have a window that's probably 1/2 inch solid hard steel. It has a lock inside. And it has a door that's again like 1/2 inch solid steel in a metal frame into concrete. And I have one. It's just about underneath where I'm sitting. And they lock that up. You can break into these things by manipulating that handle and lock, unless you're astute and you rig something up like a hole in the concrete and you put a piece of rebar there so the handle won't move. The same for the window. Some people have a mechanism that locks it so you can't break in from outside, others don't. So it's a safe room and a bomb shelter combined. It's on the lowest floor of the house. So people saw shooting outside, heard shooting, saw Hamas people running around. They all went into their bomb shelters and locked themselves in. They kicked the windows and broke the windows with the butt of their gun and climbed through the window and got in the house. And some cases, not that many, they managed to break into the bomb shelter and get the people, kill them or hostage, rape them, whatever. And in other cases they couldn't, and then they had these special, I guess you call them incendiary grenades that they would throw in the house that would burst into flames and burn the house down. Now the people are in the house is burning, and you got heat, smoke, They open the window, they get shot, they died. And the ones that came out got killed, beaten, murdered, raped, taken hostage. Okay. I was outside getting ready for my broadcast on October 7th. It was still summer. And I'm watching, they're going through the news to see what's going on and all that. And then all of a sudden, I start hearing red alerts, which tells us there's missiles coming into Israel. I had my phone set for red alerts all around the country, and they're nonstop. The phone couldn't keep up with it. Boom, 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 boom. I'm watching this, and I said, oh, Hamas attacked us. I thought, well, it'll be another 15 minutes maybe, because it's a holiday, and they'll have the planes in the air bombing the launch sites. Nothing. Nothing. An hour, 2 hours. Missiles didn't stop. 3 hours, they're still coming. Someplace between 3 and 4 hours, the planes started flying and bombing Hamas. Now, you tell me what you think is going on. It's rather obvious, isn't it? So they're moving for an investigation against the government for this, but they won't do it during the war because they're afraid it'll show the enemy neighbor countries that we're too unstable. Now, I want to give you some other factual information so you understand what's happening. I put a bunch of this up on Telegram this morning. All right, now these facts I'm going to give you can be verified in Google, and you probably know some of them. After 20 years in office, more than 20 years, this curse on Israel, Netanyahu, started a very heavy campaign on gun control in Israel, saying he didn't want Israel to be like America with mass shootings. And he scared the people, and his regime scared the people about that, and they started taking guns away from people. You got to get permission to buy a gun from the government of Israel. If you could buy it, you can carry it concealed or exposed. The only guns they're really going to let you buy is a pistol. You can get a broad array of pistols here. There's not much limitation on the pistol. You could probably get a .22 rifle if you told them you were going to shoot pests and you had an agricultural property or something like that. But you're not going to be able to buy an AK-47 or an AR-15 or anything substantial. Shotguns I never heard of in Israel. It's for private ownership. I never saw nor heard of one. And that's what they really needed in the South when Hamas came in. They opened up their window and they saw him at 50 paces or something like that, and they started opening up with 12 gauge. They would have ran away. Even pistols, they'd run away. Even 9mm. The reason it was successful was because of gun control. we're surrounded by people that hate us and routinely talk about wiping us off the face of the earth. And this piece of garbage, Netanyahu, imposes gun control on Israel and cons the people into accepting it. I never heard anything more stupid in my life. The Israeli people aren't that smart. You can't talk to them. They think they know more about you, more about the Middle East, and you don't know nothing. That's not the case. You know, they have strict policies that if you got a semi-auto, you can't carry around in the chamber because they're afraid you might have an accidental discharge. Even the Mossad and the Shin Bet and the police don't carry around in the chamber unless there's some unusual circumstance, like they're going into a dark warehouse or something. You know, you lose, if you're highly proficient, you're going to lose a second or two to draw the weapon, rack the slide, then get in position. Okay? Where this is what happens if you don't have to do that. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. You know how easy it is to get the drop on somebody if they got a rack of line around in the chamber? Probably easily from 15 feet away, an agile person could be on top of them before they could fire. Okay. Netanyahu has bought to date 75 F-35s at $100 million apiece. We spend millions retrofitting them afterwards, but let's leave the retrofitting out. 50 of those planes approximately are already here in Israel, approximately. Now, the Israeli soldiers don't, I mean, maybe some special forces do, but at large, they don't have what's called a plate carrier, which is a bullet-resistant vest, if you will. It's a set of harnesses with straps over your shoulder, straps around your waist, and it has a canvas thing here, and you put a ceramic or steel plate in that's about 10 by 12 inches that will stop a rifle round, not an armor-piercing one normally, just a regular round. Now, you can't, the soft body armor that the police in America wear don't stop rifle bullets. Okay? So, they're not worried about pistol fire because that's not usually common, so they need the plate carrier. Troops didn't have them. Various people raised money to have these plate carriers purchased and brought to Israel and distribute them for free to the soldiers. They don't have enough. Why didn't America contribute a bunch of plate carriers to Israel when they're giving them missiles and bombs? Isn't that a good question? What do plate carriers do? They stop fatal wounds to a reasonably decent extent. The ceramic plates, I think, are crappy because after the first bullet or the second bullet hits it, for sure after the second, usually on the first, they shatter and they're not going to work anymore. I used to have a set of plates that were hardened steel, armored steel. They were 1/4 of an inch thick, I guess, something like that. Maybe 3/8 even. They had a little curve that were covered with a soft rubber to make it the impact not hurt. And they weigh 7 pounds each, so it's 14 pounds. So that could be a whole lot for an infantry guy, especially in a hot climate. So they normally use the ceramic, and they're much lighter. They don't rust, stuff like that. With your steel, you'd really probably want to put some sort of machine oil layer on it to keep it from rusting, or spray it with some anti-rust paint or something like that. I don't believe they were buying the steel, they were buying the ceramic for them. Now, why didn't Israel spending so... Let's talk about how much money Netanyahu spent on F-16s, F-35s rather. He orders 75, okay? And they cost $100 million each. That's $7.5 billion. Now, let's say, Israel has an army that's a pretty substantial size, but, you've got cooks, mechanics, communications, hospital clerks, transportation, etc., etc. Well, let's say 250,000 troops would actually be in combat. I think that's about right. Okay? And 250,000. And let's say that plate carrier, if you're going to buy, tens of thousands of them, it's cost you about $400. Oops. Messed that up. All right, start over. Let's say $500. Let's be generous. Something didn't come out right. 250,000 times 500. That's $125 million. Netanyahu wouldn't spend that money on the infantry soldiers that would see combat in Israel. Do you understand that? Can you draw a motive from that? And he did not even request these bullet-resistant plate carriers from America, who probably would have given him a ton of them. These plate carriers stop knives. The ceramic ones are going to stop a knife, and so, of course, the metal ones, the steel ones, will stop knives. A lot of soldiers get stabbed. Now, your head's not protected, your neck's not protected, your arms, your legs, your groin, your pelvis, all this is not protected, but the area that's going to probably cause you a quick death is going to be hitting the heart or the lungs, right? You get your lungs perforated, you're going to check out pretty quick. You get your heart perforated, you're going to check out. Also hitting the spine, but the lower spinal cord could still get hit, all right? It only protects part of the spinal column. But the idea is even, the wounds you'll ensue, unless they're in the neck or the head, or they hit the vertebrae that's exposed in a crucial place, you've got a very high survivability of, surviving these bullet wounds, even from assault rifles like the AK-47, which is a 125 grain bullet at about 2,450 feet per second. It's a very lethal round. I think it's more lethal than the AR-15 M16 round, the .223, but it's nowhere near as accurate, and the ammo is much heavier to schlep around with you. Okay, the AR-15, the .223 or 5.56, is normally someplace around 55 grains at about 3,300 feet per second. It's a much faster bullet. which is going to give you more hydrostatic shock when it hits. See, the body is full of fluids. And when the higher the speed of the bullet is when it hits, it creates shock wave, you could say, which is called a crush cavity. And they have a permanent crush cavity and a temporary crush cavity. Permanent crush cavity means the bullet's going to go in you and it's going to create a wake of destruction that might be this thick or this thick or this thick, when the bullet is more like that, right? The heavier bullets, like a heavy game rifle that has a 400 or 500 grain bullet that goes at 2,300 feet per second, even less sometimes, is going to burrow through a lot of resistance, and it's going to make a big hole. But it's not going to give you that. It's a whole different kind of trauma. It's effective as all get up, but you can't drag that kind of ammo around. It's too heavy and expensive. So the fast moving small bullets create a big hydrostatic shock, and they have a pretty serious wound cavity that a lot of it is a temporary crush cavity, which means the flesh and all the stuff inside is pushed away, and that puts you into shock and it'll drop you to the floor, and then it returns. Permanent crush cavity, it goes in and just obliterates everything in there. So a big heavy bullet, like a 475 Nitro Express or something like that, it's going to cause a very large permanent crush cavity, and it's going to get to you another way. But it's not really feasible for military rifles because of the weight of the bullet, the cost, and the amount of rounds you can carry, and the recoil and the muzzle flash and all of this. So the 223 does the job. I've seen lots of videos of terrorists getting hit one time with it in the torso and they go down. So Netanyahu didn't even get our soldiers' armor. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Now, what this schmuck and Yahoo's doing now with gun control is we have two guys in his coalition that are ultra right-wing Zionists. They're not ultra-Orthodox, they're very religious. They're Orthodox, they wear a kippah, and they wear tzitzit, and they go to the synagogue all the time, and they're Talmudic rabbi-oriented. But these are Zionists, and they do read the prophetic scriptures, not like the ultra-Orthodox may read it, but they're taught that you can't understand it. Only one of the rabbis, special rabbis can understand prophecy. You can't, which is a joke. So they don't like Netanyahu at all, but they're working for him. So Ben-Gvir got appointed as security cabinet member, and gun control falls under his bailiwick. So he started trying to expedite the issuance of gun licenses so more people could get guns. Netanyahu has it all jammed up for months. So he tried to open it up. Instead of going for a physical interview, you had a phone interview. Instead of, I think they got rid of the psychiatric examination from a psychologist. And I think it just boils down to criminal records check, proof of citizenship, and establishing to them why you need it. People that live in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, didn't have to make much of a reason. So anyway, there are, probably 250,000 carry permits or firearm licenses in Israel. It should probably be 1 million or more. The more guns on the street, the more problematic it is for the terrorists. And they never, ever would have got anywhere in the south by Gaza on October 7th if most of these people had guns, even pistols. They just go boom, boom, boom. Now, why we can't buy a 12 gauge, why we can't buy an assault rifle remains foreign to me. So Ben-Gvir got his hands on some guns and started handing them out in the West Bank to people that live there, and they were getting like a firearm license, and here's your gun and here's ammo. Netanyahu was croaking. He hated this. Why did he hate this? Because he has a hidden agenda, a demonic one. So Ben-Gvir set up this whole thing to expedite the gun licenses, and there's 250,000 people waiting for gun licenses, and Netanyahu is stalling the works. So now the Knesset, Ben-Gvir had a room in the Knesset building where he was running this, and they said, no, you can't do it, you lack authority, this or that, and they made him close his room down or something. But he's still running it from another location. They tried to shut him down. Now, we went to America to buy assault weapons from them months ago, right after the war started, I would say. And then, Biden has the shipping of the guns jammed up. We can't get the guns. What Ben-Gvir did is they set up like Operation Watch projects in different communities. We have one in my village. There's gates to enter the village that are normally kept open. They're closed, and we have people with guns and without guns standing there checking everybody. And to make it faster, they give out windshield stickers in the community. But you know, they better know you, and you could drop names of neighbors and show them paperwork that you live here. Then they give it to you. In addition, we have armed and unarmed guards driving around the village constantly, day and night. Now, it appears that they stopped the checkpoint at the gate because there's not much need for it. But we still have people driving around 24/7 on the streets looking for irregularities. Now, Israel has a large amount of ex-military. Many are still in the reserves, and ex-law enforcement, retired, whatever. And they're predominantly the ones volunteering, although others can. And they were able to get guns from the government, assault rifles. And a lot of the people have licenses for pistols, so they carry the pistols. It's all effective. Now, Netanyahu hated this, and he didn't want the guns. So now, Biden is probably never going to ship the guns to Israel, so we got to get the guns elsewhere. Now, Biden is going after the settlers that live in the West Bank that are tormented from the Palestinians, and they've gone after the Palestinians, and Biden is putting those people on a sanctions list, and they can't come to America. So I ask you, whose side is Biden really on? Is he trying to teach the Israeli people, don't defend yourself? Be like you were in Europe in 1939? Yes! Yes, there's no explanation for that. Yes. And why would he do that? Because he's got a demonic agenda. That's why. It's simple. What does Satan want to see that happen the most? The destruction of Israel. Why? End times can't proceed. He stays out of the pit. Is that hard to understand? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but the powers of the air. Now I'm going to take a break for a minute and come back and show you more hard evidence of what Biden is doing and what Netanyahu is doing against the best interest of Israel in a shockingly scary way. I'll be right back. I got my obstacle course with the dogs here. I got to step over. You know, what I'm going to tell you now, I want to explain. I can't give you hard proof for it, but it's suspected by us and our security forces in Israel that the Arab citizens and otherwise that live in Israel other than the West Bank, okay, other than the West Bank, they live real close to us, have over 100,000 illegal guns. They routinely shoot guns, AK-47s on full auto, at various celebrations, namely weddings. Nothing is done about it. But Netanyahu, piece of garbage, bears down hard on Israelis. You can get 5 years in jail for carrying a knife in Israel. And I want you to understand, you can't explain things like this to the Israeli people. They don't understand. They have family from the Holocaust. They don't understand. If there was no gun control. In other words, you go to the gun store, you bring your ID, they sit, they call the police, they get a criminal records check. What kind of gun do you want? Now, they normally make you take an all-day course, or almost all day, when you buy a gun, where you learn how to load it, unload it, not to carry around in the chamber, how to shoot it. You shoot a few rounds at targets, and they explain the law to you. You go home. Take your gun home. If they want to have that course where you go, the gun stores teach it for a few hours, and you learn how to shoot the gun. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I think it's actually an okay idea, really. Telling people they have permission to buy a gun means you can carry it concealed. Takes place in probably 30 or 50 countries around the world. I mean, this is common. America is very unusual with, now it's been done away with, but they were for, many, many, many years having, you have a carry concealed license, you can buy a gun, but you can't carry concealed, that kind of thing. But they're getting away from that heavily in America. So, have the Israeli people woken up yet? Some. Quite a bit. But they don't know what to do about it. They really don't know what to do. Well, if you open up the gun to anybody that's a citizen in Israel, 1.6 million Arabs can buy guns. For crying out loud, they already have them. They don't have just pistols. They got full auto AK-47s and other stuff. Little submachine guns, full auto pistols, all kinds of stuff. Now, you're going to tell me that Netanyahu is not against Israel? How can you tell me that? I don't hear anybody complaining that they got to get rid of Netanyahu because of his gun laws. Ben Gvir and Smotrich not only want to make it easy to buy a gun, they want to hand you the gun. Here's an assault rifle. Now, when I was a reserve cop, that's not the most accurate term in Israel, but it's like being a reserve cop. I wasn't getting paid. I had full police powers. I had ID. And when I went out, I got a gun from the police armory. I carried a M1 carbine, 110 grains at 1,900 feet per second, full jacket, full metal jacket, ripped through car doors. And it was a good club. I had a 10-round clip in the gun, never carried around in the chamber. And I had a bandolier on the butt with 2 extra clips, so I had 30 rounds, which was pretty good. It was semi-auto, it wasn't a machine gun. You don't want a machine gun with that kind of ammo quantities. You want a machine gun with a 40-round clip or something. And I didn't feel like I needed it. And I didn't have a permit, I just took it out of the army. If anybody challenged me, I had my police ID. So, I could have bought a gun. It was a long time ago. This is not yet 40 years ago, but a long time ago. I could have bought a gun. Just go to the sergeant and say, hey, could you sign this paper for me? Yeah, here. And I go get a gun. But I didn't want a gun. Back then, we didn't lock the car. We didn't lock our house a lot of times at night when the windows were open. What do we need it for? Who am I going to shoot? I didn't know what I was going to do with the gun. It was expensive, and you got to make it worse for you. if you have a gun and the gun gets stolen, and you can't prove that you secured the gun up to their standards, you can go to prison for years. This is the wrong country for gun control. They don't know it. You can go to jail for years. So, if you're not going to take the gun with you when you go out, you get yourself a safe, have it riveted, a good safe, not a gun safe, a real safe. Gun safes you could generally break open with sledgehammers, axes, crowbars. You know, they look like they're strong, they're not. Okay. And you want something with a 1/2 inch. They call it a plate safe. It's not insulated against fire. It's just 1/2 inch steel welded together with a good lock on it, a serious lock. And you put the bolts from the inside, you bolt it into the concrete walls and the floor. You put about 6 or 8 bolts in there. It ain't coming out very easily. And you put it in there, and then, you know, if you could establish you had the safe and, you know, all that, you know, it's probably not going to go to jail. When soldiers come home from leave, they're afraid to leave the rifle in the house, because if it gets stolen, they could go to prison too. So they take the bolt out of it, and they carry that around in their pocket, and then they don't charge you because it's not a complete gun. So nobody leaves guns in the car. You see how sick Netanyahu is? Do you understand? And the people keep voting for him. He's cursing them, and they keep re-electing him. Their eyes are closed and their ears are shut up by God, and this is the punishment, but it's coming to an end. Let me tell you some of the other things they've done. So Netanyahu and Biden are on the same page. That's my point. And I'm going to show you more. All this money on F-35s, did they help us with any single rocket attacks and missile attacks? No. We generally don't use them for that. We just use F-15s, F-16s, which are much cheaper. A good advanced F-16 is, I don't know, $15, $16 million. You can buy, you know, 6 at least, or 7. Around 6 instead of 1 F-35. Did Netanyahu buy them and get kickbacks for the country? Well, he got accused of getting kickbacks from submarine purchase for many millions of dollars, and he used his cousin, who was a lawyer, to negotiate the deal, and they paid his cousin something like $25 million commission, and it got exposed. That's Netanyahu. That's why he's in court, criminal, for 3 counts of corruption. Do I know he got kickbacks from the F-35 purchase? I do not. Is it possible he did not get kickbacks? Yes. Is it possible that he did? Of course it's possible, but I don't have any proof. Oh, okay. If he didn't buy all these F-35s, then I don't know what we're going to do with them. He could have put the money in healthcare, cheap housing, many things. They don't care about the people in Israel. He's the most anti-Aliyah prime minister I think we ever had. He cut Aliyah down by 90% in his 20 years in office. And he's got the people anti-immigrants. Do you understand the sickness of having an Israel where they don't want the other Jews to come in? They make it so hard. Even the ones that came from Ukraine when the war started in Ukraine stayed in Israel for a few months and they left. Many left. They saw what a ridiculous place it is. He keeps the cost of living as high as he can. Inflation constantly. We pay over $8 a gallon for diesel. You're under $3 in America. Our tax per gallon of gas here, per gallon, is $3 a gallon tax. So we can buy more F-35s. Now, Iran recently experienced 2 oil refineries that caught fire mysteriously, and then there was another mysterious fire at some key military facility in Tehran. So he might be flying some F-35s in there surreptitiously because they're stealthy and blowing stuff up in Iran. But can you give me one good excuse for his gun control? One good excuse why the soldiers don't have plate carrier bulletproof vests? Now let me give you some corkers on Biden. Of course, we could start with the open border. And the sheriff of, I think it's Pinellas County, 50 miles from the border in Texas, said that he believes under the Biden 2.5 years or so that at least 4 million illegals have come in. And we know 70% of them are draft age males. That normal figure should be maybe 15-20%. You should have children, small children. You should have old people. You should have women. You should have girls that are big, like 18, 16. 70% draft age males. The FBI is the highest terrorist alert in the history of the United States. Biden's bringing them in, shipping them all around America, and won't stop. Congress said to him, we won't approve the budget giving aid to Ukraine and Israel unless you shut the border, and he wouldn't shut the border. Do you think he's not trying to have America destroyed? Do you think these people are not Chinese agents, Iranian agents, North Korean agents, Russian agents, Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Al-Fatah, and so forth? Don't kid yourself. They're saying they are all over the media. It's too late. If he shuts the border now, it's too late. I covered a lot of that yesterday. Biden is giving back to Iran the $10 billion they froze in sanction money. Do you hear that? It's actually going back to Iran. Okay? The Biden administration on November 14th, that's a month ago roughly, extended sanctions waivers to allow Iran to access upwards of $10 billion in electricity revenue once held in escrow in Iraq. They got access back then, and it's just about now it's starting to flow to them because there's paperwork and red tape. $10 billion. And he turns around and says, Iran backs Hamas, the Houthis, the Hezbollah, the other radicals in Syria and Iraq that attacked our bases almost 100 times in the last 6 weeks that are shooting ships in the Red Sea, and he gives them $10 billion. He opens the borders. Can you tell me Biden is not trying to destroy America? You got to be kidding if you believe that. Really? You got to be kidding yourself if you haven't woken up. You're like the Israeli public. They partially woken up only. They're not really all awake to what's going on here. But it's pretty bad. Israel now, probably at the request of Biden, is disbanding military units in the West Bank that they haven't done it yet, but they're close to doing it, I should say, that are Zionist people and want to disband them. Now that's Biden and that's Netanyahu. Biden is quite close and allied with Qatar, who was hosting in 5-star hotels, as far as I know still is, the highest leaders of Hamas who were executing and managing the war from Qatar. And this is America's buddy. The Palestinian Authority, run by Mahmoud Abbas in Israel, runs a slave for pay program, Murder Incorporated. If you're a terrorist and you go out and you kill a Jew, anybody, a child, a woman, a terrorist, and you die, he'll pay your family a little over $1,000 every month for as long as he's able to. And that's a lot of money in the West Bank or Gaza. That's probably like in America having $3,000 or $4,000 a month. It's a comfortable little pension for not having to get up in the morning. If the terrorist goes to jail and doesn't get killed, their family gets the same amount of money for as long as the terrorist is in jail. Now, who supports this piece of crap paying people money to kill Jews? The EU, the United States, and the UN, UNWRA. The United States recently gave him Israel cut his revenue off for the slave for pay, Palestinian Authority. We collect tax money that goes to them for their geographical area, so we deducted from their tax revenue the money we calculated he was paying every month in the slave for pay program to get him to stop. He didn't stop. But then we doubled it, so we started deducting from his budget twice as much. So what happened is Blinken came over here and gave him $50 million. Then the EU came over here and gave him $200 million. Now you tell me that these countries that pay this piece of garbage, that runs the slave for pay program, paying people for killing Jews, okay, are not complicit with him. In any court in America, they'd be convicted as an accomplice. Before the fact, after the fact, conspiracy, whatever. Yet they keep doing it. Do they not want to see Jews get killed? Why don't they tell them, we're not going to give you any more money unless you stop it? They don't tell them that. You can verify all this in Google. Now they want him to be in charge of Gaza. The Americans do. The guy that pays people's family a stipend generously every month if they kill Jews or attempt to kill Jews and go to jail or get killed. And America supports this. Now you're going to tell me America's a friend of Israel? You're kidding me. You're kidding me. You just didn't know the facts. Let me go in the chat and see if I have any questions. I hope I frightened you. Not to be frightening you, to get you to wake up. The person who posted Ian, yeah, I know what you're saying. What do you think I'm saying? I'm just giving you the details. All the leaders of every country, including the one I'm in, are run by Satan right now. And we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but the powers of the air. Okay? So what's going to happen now? Whoa. What's going to happen now? As the Hamas war winds down, Netanyahu is going to be replacing it with the Lebanon war, so he could continue to stay out of jail. And Biden is putting pressure on him to wrap the Hamas war up around January. The big thing that I don't know why nobody's talking about is I'm estimating at least 80% of the buildings, houses, stores, offices, government buildings, have been damaged or destroyed in Gaza. The streets have been destroyed. The water lines are busted up. The sewage is busted up. The traffic lights, all this stuff is busted up from all the bombings and artillery. Where are the people in Gaza going to return to? What Biden is engineering with Netanyahu is to keep the Hamas in Gaza. That's it. That's what you're going to see. First problem is where you're going to put them. You got 50,000 PIJ in Hamas before the war, so what do you got now? 47,000, 48,000? Not that many got killed. Or let's say you got 45,000. Okay, mostly civilians got killed. Where are you going to put them? I don't understand where you're going to put them. Nobody's going to take them because they know they're going to overthrow their own government. They're not stupid. Americans and Europeans are stupid, and they take them. What are we going to do with them? I don't know what we're going to do with them. Keep them in Gaza. What do you think we're going to do with them? And then what's going to happen? The UNWRA, the European Union, America, 150 countries roughly are going to start throwing fortunes into Gaza to reconstruct Gaza. They'll never make it. The prophetic time clock's too short, but that's what they'll try to do. People will live in tents. They'll bring aid trucks in every day to feed them for free, water them for free, medical for free, everything for free, right? Clothing, everything, You don't have to work. You're a Palestinian. Just go kill Jews. And they'll try to get the economy going by just dumping money into it, which will work. And Hamas will shake down the people that are rebuilding the physical structures and say, you give us half the money or 20% or 10% or we'll kill you. We'll run you out of Gaza. What do you think they'll do? So they'll be getting a tremendous amount of money again, and they'll start trying to rise up and build another revolution. The other idea they have, which I don't think Biden could get across the Israeli public, even they're not that thick-headed, is build a highway from Gaza to the West Bank. Well, they want to have a highway so they could travel without getting off the highway. And go to travel between Gaza and the West Bank, put everything under Palestinian Authority. And the other idea they could do is move them out of Gaza into the West Bank, which is something you might see. And that's a two-state solution in disguise, not heavily disguised, a little disguised. and you might see that. There's somewhere between 2.5 and 4.5 million Palestinians, as they like to use the term, living in the West Bank. We don't even know. Add to that another 2 million Gazans. It's 2.5, but probably 500,000 could stay in Gaza. Another 2 million up there in the West Bank. And we're going to have another Gaza in the West Bank, which is what Biden wants and what the unclean spirits want. Because they'll build rockets and missiles and attack us, drive settlers out of the West Bank. And something like this is likely to occur because in Zechariah 12, which is Israel's next war, not Gog and Magog, Zechariah 12. In Gog and Magog, it says that we're living in peace and safety without bars and walls, right there in Ezekiel 38, with much cattle and gold and silver. No, that's not Israel today. Under this piece of crap Netanyahu, 28% of the people live at the poverty line in Israel. Kids go to school and the families don't have enough money for lunch and school. Okay? You know, it's just ridiculous, you know, with this guy. And people keep putting up with it. When I call him a guy, I use the term loosely. Some of you know what I mean. It's just horrible, you know. Now, do we have another good candidate to replace him with? Absolutely not. They're all the same S-bots. You're not gonna. There's none of them out there that are any good. So what is God gonna do? He's gonna cut them off. It's in Ezekiel 34, the bad shepherds. And when's that gonna happen? I'd say anytime now. I'd say on the high side, a few months away. On the low side, days away. How are they going to get cut off? I believe supernaturally. The two witnesses are likely going to do it. So what is Biden really doing to bring about the demise of Israel? Well, I can tell you what he's doing. It's not that hard to figure out. He's getting Israel, he's giving Israel arms, bombs, and rockets, and all this kind of stuff, right? And reconnaissance support, so Israel is working with Hamas. Now, is Israel going to kill all of Hamas? No. Is Israel going to push them in the sea? No. Is Israel going to let them come into Israel and live in Israel? Well, I think that's going to be relatively forced down their throats. That they're going to live in the West Bank. It's a probability. It may not happen. Is Israel going to occupy Gaza? Well, Biden will croak if they do, but it might happen. Because Netanyahu needs to keep the public off his back. Or they may try to yank him out of office right now. So they're probably going to go in. Stay there and demilitarize the place. You know, get rid of the bomb factories, finish off all the tunnels. They started flooding the tunnels. The test on flooding the tunnels was successful, so we're going to see more tunnel flooding. And as soon as the Hamas thing winds down a lot, then the Lebanon thing will heat up. And I did a video a few days ago showing you that Lebanon is not anywhere near the threat they're making us think it is. Syria lit up a little bit yesterday with some rockets, and it's gonna open up another front in Syria as well. And the Houthis, of course, even declared war on Israel officially. They've got 6 major shipping companies not shipping in the Red Sea. The whole world economy is messed up now. So what is what is America going to do? They're going to try to run convoys of boats. If the companies like Maersk and them decide to go for it, they probably assemble 15 or 25 boats together and a few naval vessels would escort them up the Red Sea, the plan being to knock down the missiles and the drones. However, yesterday, they shot at ships with land-based artillery. I don't believe their anti-missile systems are going to be able to take that out all the time. Land-based artillery, I don't think so. They have to do a ground invasion of Yemen. That's it. There's no other way to deal with it. Because they have tunnels and underground bunkers also. And they're 4 times bigger than Hamas. And they're more fortified. And they're gonna need at least 25,000 soldiers, and that's really a joke. They probably need 100,000 to take out the Houthis. I'm not so sure they want to take out the Houthis. If they do, it'll start off as just air attacks, and then it'll focus into air attacks, and they're not going to be effectual. They're not going to stop it, and then they're going to have to go in on the ground. They'll come in from Saudi Arabia, probably 2 or 3 places. They'll set a beachhead up with Expeditionary Force Marines landing there after 3 or 4 days of bombings. And then they'll start trying to hunt down where the missiles are coming from. And it's going to be, it'll take months. Look at what happened in Hamas. And the Houthis are more sophisticated than Hamas. They probably have more money, and they probably have better weapons. And they've already managed to shut the Red Sea. The Panama Canal, due to the drought, has been reducing its traffic probably by 70-80%. Can't pass that many ships. Although it's freeing it up a little because they got some rain. There's a lake that they used to flood the canal pieces, the parts of the canal, and the lake was dried up due to drought, and now it's getting more rain, so they're going to try to push more ships through. The other pieces of the puzzle is eventually Iran will block the Persian Gulf, and Turkey is most likely to leave NATO and side with Russia and Iran. And then they'll shut the Bosphorus Straits, which is a pincher point that allows access from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, and he will side with the axis of evil. China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, China, Venezuela, Cuba, and Belarus, and a couple other lunatic countries with them. And that's what they'll do. All right, if I have questions, I'll answer them. Just put them up in the chat. All right, I'm going to switch to Bible now, away from war intel. So Netanyahu and Biden are working together. I believe Netanyahu opened up the door for like a Pearl Harbor thing, a bad attack to justify going to war. And America's dragging Israel into a front with Hamas, with Lebanon, with the Houthis, and Iraq and Syria for now. And they're giving them all the weapons they want. And once all the fronts are open, America will probably turn their back on Israel, or there'll be Congress stopping the flow of weapons or something like that. And Israel will be in the lurch, and that's the plan. And that's when you see Jehovah work. And that's when you see the 2 witnesses start working. And that's when you see Zechariah 12, which is Jacob's trouble. It says in Jacob's trouble, in one place it appears in Jeremiah 30, great is Jacob's trouble, but he'll be saved out of it. The Israelites don't get saved out of the great day of the Lord, Ezekiel 38 and 39. Half go into captivity, the women get raped. It doesn't sound like, nothing's going to happen. So, Zechariah 12, we don't read of a single Israeli getting a sprained ankle. And that's Jacob's trouble, Zechariah 12. Most of the church world doesn't have a clue that the two witnesses are fighting for Israel by burning them up on the right hand and the left hand in Zechariah 12. They don't know they're going to look on Yeshua, they're going to see him, which is the appearing of the Son of Man, which is in Malachi 4, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in his extremities. And we jump out of the stall like a calf. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't know there's an appearing of Yeshua with the heavens, with God the Father, that happens quite a while before he returns for the second coming with New Jerusalem. They don't get it. They don't get much, and they're not going to. Okay? So, let's go take a look at the different designations, 1260, 42 months, and so forth. This is not going to be real solid meat. It's going to be lightly solid, You'll get it. It's not hard. Revelation 12:1. You know what? I'm going to get myself a quick cup of coffee. It's instant coffee. I have a turbo. Literally, it's called a turbo water boiler. It comes out of Germany. I think it's Bosch. And if I just put a big cup of water in there, it boils it in a few seconds. It's nice. So let me get some more coffee and I'll be right back. It goes fast. It's a quick boiler. somebody's moving around. So there's a few Bible prophecy things I need to bring up to you that the Lord wants me to share. One is about the beast. The beast is the correct terminology for what the church world refers to as the Antichrist. The Antichrist is not a correct term. I wouldn't use it because it's vague. That's why, because it says even today there are many Antichrists now, they said, and that was like 2,000 years ago. So the beast in Revelation 13 comes out of the sea, and John watches him on the shore of the sea, on the sand, and he comes out from the pit, and as he's coming up from inside the earth, there's the ocean, and he goes through the ocean. He comes out of the ocean. This is not a regular human being that comes up out of the pit. The descriptions are a head like a lion and the claws like a bear and a leopard. That's describing his attributes. That's not what he's going to look like. Okay? What does a leopard do? A leopard is very fast. It's a killer, a predator. And it generally tries to break the neck or rip the throat out. The lion's another predator, similar but not as fast. The bear is not always a predator. The bear runs around a lot of times eating vegetation. He's an omnivore. Bears will kill a moose, a grizzly will kill and eat a moose or a deer or something like that. And they'll also pull salmon out of the water, and they'll also sit in the bushes and eat berries and other kinds of things for hours and hours and hours. So the bears will eat anything. They'll devour anything. You got it? Devour anything. So he comes up out of the sea, and Satan gives him his seat, his power, and his authority. Now, the Church of Pergamos, Revelation 2:12, your own Bible tells you that Satan's seat is in Pergamos, which is in Cyprus, North Cyprus, which is owned, operated, and controlled by Turkey, the former Ottoman Empire head, and it's by the beach. There never was a Pergamos in Israel, never will be. And some of the more modern translations mistranslate this on purpose, and they say it's Pergamum, which is in Turkey. For our purposes, the same thing. There never was a Pergamum in Israel, never will be. But it's really Pergamos, and it really is in Cyprus, okay? And that's where Satan's seat is, according to Revelation 2:12, and then in Revelation 2:13, I believe, the next verse, it says that's where Satan dwells. Now, at the time that was written, which was after by quite a few years, Yeshua rose from the dead. It would have been before 70 AD, but after he rose from the dead, he said Satan dwells there. Now, he didn't say in Revelation 2, Satan immediately has been moved into Pergamos and he dwells there now. He was already dwelling there. So he went there before Revelation 2 was written. When did he go there? Well, my guess is when Yeshua rose from the dead. It could have been when Yeshua was born, but I doubt it. Because he was running around in Jerusalem. Remember, he tried Yeshua in the wilderness, took him on the top of a great mountain and said, I'll give you all these kingdoms of the world, they're mine to give, and all that. Yeah. So I think it was probably at the resurrection. That's when Yeshua accomplished what he accomplished. But it could have been before, but that's my best guess. I'm guessing, and that's my guess. Okay? And it has some reason behind it. because that's when Yeshua conquered death. And death is the power that Satan works with, really. Fear of death. All right? So I want you to understand that. The next thing I want you to understand is that we're in Revelation 17. As I've told you many times, in the last verse of Revelation 17, it says that great woman, the whore, is the great city. And this great city is Washington, D.C. It's not Pergamos. And Pergamos gets destroyed in a completely different manner than this. This is D.C., America. The daughter of Babylon is not just D.C., it's the whole country, because in Jeremiah 50:51 it refers to many cities. I will kindle fires around your cities. It's many cities that gets destroyed. What Biden's doing now is bringing on the revolution in America. He knows it's coming and he wants it. States know what he's doing with the open border. And what he's doing next, he's going to embed, he's got the American military embedded in the Pacific. Lots of them. And China hasn't even attacked Taiwan. How do we know China's ever going to attack Taiwan? They don't have to. They're in on the snare. And the snare, and so is Biden, and the snare is to draw the military over there in a justifiable fashion. So they threaten North Korea, threaten South Korea, they launch missiles, they tell them they're going to threaten them, they're going to unify Korea under them, and blah, 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 right? America builds a base in South Korea. It used to have 28,000 soldiers. I don't know how many it has now, probably more. They got all kinds of resources with Japan. Japan's all kinds of nervous, right? Taiwan's very nervous. Just about every day or many days out of the week, they surround Taiwan with naval ships and fly lots of aircraft in the airspace of Taiwan. And America responds with military might in the area. Same with the Philippines, same with, well, Guam they don't mess with very much, you know. So, America's deployed there. Now America's deployed in the Middle East big time, but you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen that. This thing with the Houthis is not going to work. Houthis are already shooting, as of yesterday, artillery. Artillery is... How are you going to catch them with artillery? They can move it around. Hide it under trees. Put it in tunnels, caves. You can go up to 25 miles easily with artillery. That's going to cover a lot of water. Let's see how wide that pincher point is. In Yemen. Let's see if you can cover it with artillery. I don't remember the name of the pincher point. I gotta... I gotta get a map of it. I'll go quick. It's probably called some sort of straits, but I'm not. This map has it, but it's not clear. It's a fuzzy map, which you get a lot in Google. This one. Google puts up a lot of bad maps. They're not bad, they're fuzzy, they're hard to read. This place gotta have a name. If I get the name, then I could get the distance, but I don't have the name. I looked up Pincher Point and nothing came up. I gotta try a different search. This is terrible. Narrowest part of Red Sea. Maybe this will get it to us. Be very interesting. I've covered this before, but I don't remember what it. I believe it's called the Strait of Tiran. I'm looking this up. I think I got it. But anyway, it looks like it's in artillery range, I believe. Boy, this got bigger than I thought. Yeah, Strait of Tiran. The highest figure I got was 16 miles. Guys, you can control it with artillery. Artillery, many countries have artillery going 25 miles, including Israel. Generally speaking, our artillery goes around 15 miles. But there are other shells you can get that get the artillery to go longer. But Israel usually uses artillery out to 12 or 15 miles. They don't go further. America usually goes 25 miles with a lot of their artillery, but they don't have to. There's different shells. You got shrapnel shells, you got in armor piercing, probably the incendiary, and all kinds of different things. So they're not going to stop them with these Navy attacks. The Navy attacks are going to launch missiles to take down the missiles they shoot. Are they going to be able to take down artillery shells? I don't think so. An artillery shell, the projectile is probably something like this. Not a big long missile that's, many feet long and broad and wide. Let's see what the velocity of an artillery shell is. That is interesting. Let's check this out. This will be fascinating. Could go 3,000 to 3,000 feet per second. So let's take a calculator. Let's say you got 3,000 feet per second. And that means we multiplied by 60. And we got 180,000 feet in a minute. Divided by 5,200. Doesn't look right. It's coming out at 34 miles an hour. No, 34 miles a minute. So it's coming out at 30, let's say 35 miles a minute. So if you want to go 15 miles, let's just say it's a half a minute. Can the American ships detect a small artillery shell, get a radar lock on it, predict its trajectory, and fire a missile that gets into position quick enough to explode in the vicinity with shrapnel and take it down in a half a minute? I doubt it, because they're going to dump lots of artillery shells at the same time. They're going to keep firing them. That's really efficient if they can track it, project the trajectory, get a lock on it, launch the missile, and have the missile there in 15 seconds. I don't think they can. Artillery is cheap. Artillery cannons are cheap. They're not that big. They're highly mobile. They're portable. You can hide them. Okay? Not only that, they're going to use drones, of which Iran will be happy to give them thousands of every month. So they just send 8 or 10 drones after a ship, and then start pounding it with artillery. You think the Navy ships are going to stop everything? One drone or one artillery shell gets a hit, you're going to have a ship on fire. It's not going to work. They can launch drones from the tunnels, just run out of the tunnel, launch a few drones, run back in the tunnel. They can do it with artillery. They have to have a tunnel or a cave or something and bring the artillery out and launch. They can dig pits in the ground, say a round pit that goes down 6 or 8 feet, put the artillery piece in there, have the barrel extending at the right trajectory outside the pit, and the guy operates it from outside the hole because he doesn't want to get all the blast, pulls a 15, 20-foot cable to fire the artillery shell. Now they got to get a hit right in that exact pit. If they don't, and they just explode a missile 10 feet away, well, the shrapnel's going to go flying, but nothing's going to come down into the pit and kill the artillery piece. Guys, there's so many ways they can do this. They can fire from populated areas, missile launchers, and the Americans are going to be afraid they're going to hit the buildings. So Biden's going to entrench America in Yemen. Biden may entrench America in Lebanon, he might. And he's already entrenched them in many countries in the Middle East, and he'll be continuing to do so. And then I think his last move might be to invade Iran, maybe. And that'll draw so much military away from America. Then Russia will start up with Finland and Moldova and Denmark and Sweden and Lithuania and Latvia and Georgia, and cause so much military resources to be deployed to the region. And then China will light it up even more. And then the sleeper agents in America are going to go to work. You're going to have a revolution. It says in Jeremiah 50:51, ruler fighting ruler. And that's going to be states succeeding. You got to be a ruler. That means you got to be at least a county or a city, probably a state, and they'll succeed. They'll be sick and tired of Biden and his open borders, but it's too late. And Biden will fight against them. And then it says, those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind. That's your harvest in Revelation 13. That's your second Exodus. So by the time you see that, this Zechariah 12 already happened, or should have, or will shortly thereafter. Get the timing, and look how close we are. Lift up your head, your redemption draws nigh, boy. Lift it up, the appearing of the Son of Man. And Biden's trying to destroy Israel. It says in Jeremiah 50:51 that America will do evil things to Israel. So he's trying to destroy Israel with a snare. Get us to think he's going to keep backing us. And then it says they run away. In Jeremiah 50, either 24 or 44, they run away. So, I think it's 24. So they are going to get us spread out all over the Middle East, and then they're going to cut us off. And then we're going to be stuck, and that's when you're going to see the two witnesses come and the Lord start working overtly for us. So all things are good. All things work to good for those who love the Lord. Remember that. It's Revelation 12. There appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. 12 stars is the 12 tribes. It's Israel. The woman, allegorically or spiritually or parable-wise, whatever kind of words we want to use, is Israel. And it says, there appeared a great wonder in heaven. For John, it never says, when you see this sign in the heavens again, no, this is near. No, it's a one-off event. A bunch of schmucks write books about this, telling you when it's going to happen again. And people believe it. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, that's Satan, not the beast, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it was born. This was Herod, killing the male children when they were expecting Yeshua. And it didn't say specifically Satan was thrown down to heaven, but the third of the angels that rebelled were apparently at this time thrown down to heaven. Let's keep reading. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. That's Yeshua. And a child was caught up unto God and to his throne. That's the resurrection from the dead, and then coming up to heaven to be seated on the right hand of God the Father until his enemies are made his footstool. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,200, it's 1,260 days. No, 1,260. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was there found any more their place anymore in heaven. So actually it does say Satan and them all got kicked out. It's just giving you more details. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying, in heaven now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before God day and night. So he no longer gets to do that. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore, rejoice, you heaven, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So when the woman went into the wilderness pertaining to the time Herod was trying to kill Yeshua and killing the male children, was that 1,260 days ago? No. Was it 1,260 years ago? No, it was pushing 2,000 years, very close. So those theories don't work. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. The wilderness means the parched place, and that's what Israel is. It's referred to that as Sion, parched place. Into her place where she is nourished for a time and times, and a half a time from the face of the serpent. Now, it says she's nourished for these 3.5 times. It doesn't say continuously. Now, you have to understand, these 3.5 times is 1,260 days, and it is 42 months. The first time is the Egypt captivity. The second time is the Babylonian captivity. The third time is the Roman captivity, when Rome took 200,000 Jews back with them after they killed like 1 million or something. And the half a time is in Zechariah 14. And that is the next attack on Jerusalem, not Zechariah 12, rather, the Gog and Magog attack. That is the great day of the Lord. And Zechariah 14 reads like this, and you'll see the half the time right in your face. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and I spoil. It's called the day of the Lord. This is Gog and Magog, the falling away. This is Joel 3. This is Ezekiel 8-11. The image that maketh jealous, the abomination of desolation, makes the temple desolate. No more offerings. Glory of God of Israel, leave, so forth. And thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee. So Israel here is getting looted, Jerusalem. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, so it's probably pretty bloody, and the houses rifled, that's looted, and the women ravished, that's raped, this is bloody, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity. Boom, that's your half of time, your half captivity. Nothing like this ever happened before, and hasn't happened yet, and never reoccurs. And the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall Jehovah go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. It doesn't say Yeshua, it's the Lord, it's Jehovah. And this Jehovah is the angel that God placed his name Jehovah in, Michael. That's the glory of God of Israel that's in the temple. And if you read Ezekiel 8-11, you see all the details there. Yeshua never rose up yet in the day of battle for Israel, not once yet. He will, but not yet. But the glory of God of Israel has. And when you read Zechariah 11 in no uncertain terms, you see Ezekiel chapter 11 that it's the glory of God of Israel. His feet touch on the Mount of Olives. So these time frames, 1260, 42 months, 1260 is 3.5 years. 42 months is 3.5 years. Time and times a half is like that. This has been veiled, so people couldn't see it. But these are the days of Elijah. Here it is on a silver platter. Now, let me give you some supporting scriptures for this. Daniel 7:25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and the dividing of time. That's the time of times and half a time again. Egypt, Babylon, Rome, and the half a time is in Zechariah 14, the great day of the Lord, which happens after, by some years, Zechariah 12. And that's the end of the 1260 and the 42 months. In the book of Daniel, there is no beast, there is no false prophet, there is no talking statue, there is no taking the mark of the beast to buy and sell. Because it never happens to Israel. That's the last thing that ever happens to Israel that's bad. Now, it also appears in Daniel 12, again, with a little bit slightly different wording. You see, let's go to Daniel 12:3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Arise, shine, your light has come. That's Isaiah 60, verse 1. The glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Okay. When you see Yeshua and your body's changed to an incorruptible body, you're going to be shining like Moses was up on the mountain with the glory of God of Israel for 40 days. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Well, we're in the time of the end. These are the days of Elijah, if you get it. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. I believe he's speaking not about the internet and, rockets, and speaking about the Bible. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood another two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, as a man, not an angel. Who was this? This was Yeshua. Who were the two? The two witnesses, his brothers from heaven. How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river. He walked on water, remember, so the people would know who he was. When he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half. That's it. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. All these things are finished. All the bad stuff that ever happens to Israel is in Daniel, and it's finished. And there is no beast. That happens to the nations. And these are all the same things, because you can't make any sense out of the 42 months and the 1260, because the woman wasn't in the wilderness for 3.5 years, and 42 months, it's much longer periods of time. So it's a spiritual or an allegorical period of time. It's all the same thing. It means the same thing. The bad stuff is over. At the end of the great day of the Lord, there's a new heaven and a new earth. Not at the millennium, at the end of the great day of the Lord. And that is when it's no longer the wilderness, because the wilderness means dry, parched place, Sion in Hebrew. It's a beautiful, great place. It'll get better after Zechariah 12 too, but it won't be into its fullness till after the great day of the Lord. So the ones that come on the second Exodus are not going to have eternal life. They'll stop in the wilderness, the Israelites, and then they'll come to Israel, and they're going to be the ones that it's going to be the falling away from, not the ones that have the new body, and the Lord gives them a heart out of flesh and puts the law in his heart, and they all know him from the least to the greatest. It's the other ones, and they're going to get tested, and they're going to fall away. And you read about this in Ezekiel 8-11, and the church never wants you to see this, but it's there. You'll see the whole thing. And I don't have enough time to do it today. And that's what that says. And that's what that means. And that's what the Lord showed me today. And that's big. It's veiled, but you could see it. 3.5, time at times a half, times 3.5. 3.5 for 42 months, 3.5 for 1260 days. He's telling you it's the same period of time. And he's talking spiritual. Okay? Like when God in Hosea 6:1-2 says he's going to punish Israel for 2 days, it wasn't a 48-hour punishment. It's 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. See, he puts the stuff out cryptically so most people would never get it. And when you explain it to the ones that are called but not chosen, they take issue with you. They don't know what it means. Sometimes they might agree with you if it lends itself to their left behind secret rapture, but they generally won't agree with you. They don't know nothing. The only thing they know is the word of their father, Satan. And they agree with the doctrines of demons like Schofield and stuff like that. That's what they go for. That they seem to be able to understand. Because Satan doesn't steal the word away from their heart. They give place to Satan by going to these churches, and that's how he can do it. That's basically what I got for you today. So I'm Moshe, my wife is Rivka. Please pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. Pray we don't have to go into bomb shelters. Pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues. Thank you for those that are giving offerings. You partakers in the work, you'll get the rewards from the work. And pray for better videos. keep the prayer going for my hernia. Something good's happening. I don't know what yet, but it's working. And keep praying for my abdomen. That's getting better too. Appreciate those prayers. My wife's getting better. She still has a little scratchy throat. You could pray for. That's from the grueling trip. I think it took her 48 hours or something like that to get over here, or 36 hours. And, well, it could be from other reasons too, actually, but that was probably part of it too, the beginning of it anyway. So there's another reason, I think. But anyway, she's okay now, but keep praying. And offering information's in the description box and in the chat. We can take PayPal. Just send me an email. My email's in the bottom of the description box and the chat, and I'll send you the link. If I just post the link, I'll get so much spam and garbage. I just don't want to do it. And what else can I tell you? If you got questions, you could, ask me questions on email. I can't answer every question in the world, but I can take a try at a lot of them. I don't like to do counseling because I'm not there present with the people, and I don't know the people face to face, so it's usually a bad idea to try it. I can give you biblical responses to questions in the regard of counseling, but that's about the best I can really do. Because there's two sides to every story, two angles, two positions. And it's just not right to do long distance. In a pinch, I could try to help out by giving you scriptures, but that's probably about the best I could do. It's not easy to do that. So things are getting way more enhanced and aggravated. We got to ask ourselves if Iran's going to help the Houthis, and if so, how? Will the other groups help the Houthis, the other militias and radical terrorist groups, and if so, how? Will Israel invade Lebanon, and all this stuff so pray about all these things. And remember, we're getting closer and closer to another front opening up with Syria, and I believe it will open up. Maybe after Lebanon or during Lebanon, probably during. And I don't see them, even with their 90 ships or 93 ships in the Middle East, which they're claiming they'll have shortly, I don't see them shutting the Houthis down very easily at all. They're going to have to go in. That's what I see. Algeria officially declared war on Israel. There to the right or the east of Morocco. Morocco has a very small pincher point that could block the Atlantic going into the Mediterranean. And they might let Algeria attack that pincher point and stop traffic into the Mediterranean too. I have not heard of Morocco doing that. Algeria wants to threaten the Mediterranean entrance from Algeria, but that seems rather vague and difficult because they're not very close to that pincher point. So I don't know how they would do that. They could be a harassing force, but not anything serious. It wouldn't deter ships. They would just veer. They would go into the Mediterranean and then go far away from where Algeria is until they pass Algeria by 100 miles or so, and then come back and get comfortable again. It wouldn't be that major. But if Morocco kicks in with them, which is also a Muslim majority Israel-hating country, then you're going to see another pinch point. Then eventually Iran's going to make a move by the Straits of Hormuz and try to shut the Persian Gulf. And if you see them get the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the Mediterranean by the Atlantic, you probably got 40% of the world's oil and lots of the food and everything else stopped. not only will it be oil shortages, food, and many things. So, let's see what happens. And expect a lot of betrayal from Biden because you're already seeing it. Don't kid yourself. And Netanyahu, of course, is working like Biden and with Biden. And that's what I got. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And remember, lift up your heads, your redemption draweth nigh. It's getting real close now. We're closing, I think in January, beginning of January, will be in the 6th month of the year of recompenses. And it's possibly that then the redemption starts, the redemption starts to kick in. I don't know for sure. Pray about it, that it gets revealed to us. It could happen then. I don't know. Pray. It's interesting theory. I like it a little bit. But let's pray about it and get the truth. Okay, I'm out. I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. Thank you.